8 gold medals at the Olympics, 11 gold medals at the World Championships, 3 world records, some untouched for 13 years.
Here comes Usain Bolt, and Bolt is going to take it. Usain Bolt gets it!
Usain Bolt is clearly one of the greatest athletes of our lifetime. Now retired, he runs multiple businesses, gets paid just to show up, produces music, and has even built a family of little Bolts. But what are the chances of him returning? Why did he really retire? And what would happen if he actually came back to compete?
I asked my coach, I said to my coach, I feel like we should give it a shot.
Since retired, there's been a few instances where he's talked about returning. The most recent one occurred just a few weeks ago when he posted this clip online with the caption, "Might need to unretire, or is it too late for me?" The internet obviously had a lot to say. There were mixed reactions, and here are some of the highlights. Don't even think about it. You have a 0 chance to make it back. I need some dollars, Sir Bolt. Do one and send 1/3 of the money you make for me. So what is this actually about? Is Usain Bolt really coming out of retirement? I wouldn't get too excited just yet. It seems like this was mainly to promote one of his latest ventures. Specifically, this NFT project cleverly called Tracks and Records, which displays his world records and select songs from his debut album.
NFT, it's the biggest technology that's ever happened. Everyone's gonna say it, that you're just saving a JPEG.
If it wasn't for copyright strikes on YouTube, I would play one of the songs for you guys because it's kind of catchy. I'm not even gonna lie. That being said, there has been other situations where Usain Bolt has gotten this close to competing again. Recently on Twitter, he's been going back and forth with Tyreek Hill, one of the fastest players in the NFL. I mean, the guy's Twitter handle name is Cheetah. Tyreek has called out Usain Bolt several times.
Baiting Usain Bolt into coming out of retirement to race me. You know what I'm saying?
Usain, you hear that, Usain Bolt?
Bolt has even offered to race him for his Super Bowl ring.
Has Tyreek Hill agreed to that, Usain?
No, I don't think he would. He's got one, so he's probably scared.
This has yet to happen, although Tyreek Hill does enjoy trolling other track athletes, including Trayvon Bromell, the fastest 100-meter sprinter of 2021. I wouldn't be surprised to see Usain Bolt take up the challenge because there's been other circumstances where he's gotten back and has ran again. But before we get into those stories, we have to answer the question, why did Usain Bolt really retire?
He was apparently speeding on a rain-slick highway when he crashed.
With the emergency rescue.
After an apparent high-speed car accident crash in 2009, Usain Bolt had 0 injuries despite driving his car into a ditch until he stepped out of the car. Then he reportedly stepped on thorns barefoot while leaving the car. It required him to have a minor surgery to remove the thorns. Nothing major, but this would foreshadow a series of foot injuries that would soon follow. In 2014, Usain Bolt was reported to have another foot injury. 2014 was his worst year since he had become an Olympic champion. His 998 season best that year was Bolt's slowest since 2007. Then, months away from the 2016 Olympic Games, he injured his foot once again. Not during training and not during a competition, while partying at the club and walking up to the DJ booth. At this point in his life, Usain Bolt had the money, the championship titles, the fame, everything. And the reality is that his motivation was quickly fading. Leading up to Rio, Usain Bolt had already publicly stated that he would retire. The main thing that motivated him, according to the documentary, was Justin Gatlin telling the media that he's gonna win the gold medal and beat Usain Bolt. But just when things seemed like they couldn't get worse, they did.
Usain Bolt suffered an injury scare.
Withdrew from the Jamaican Olympic track and field trials in Kingston due to a hamstring injury.
Due to medical exemption, Bolt was still able to attend and once again established his dominance as the Sprint King. This, unfortunately, would be his final season of glory.
Every year I go through too much. For some reason I can't stay healthy.
Pushing your body to the absolute limit has its consequences, and the effects on Usain Bolt's body were starting to catch up to him. He was competing in fewer major competitions and dealing with more injuries. Ultimately, age, injury, and having very little left to gain from competing is what led to his eventual retirement, all of which culminated in Usain Bolt's infamous last race in 2017. Obviously, when a superstar athlete reaches the end of their career, the aim is to go out with a blaze of glory. Kobe did this in his final match when he scored 60 points and hit the game-winning shot against Utah Jazz. David Beckham did this when he won the MLS Cup in a 3-1 victory during his final game. And Derek Jeter also did this with a 9-5 win over the Red Sox. Unfortunately for Usain Bolt, this wasn't the case. His last race was scheduled for August 12, 2017. It took place in London, in the stadium where he scored his first triple win in the 2012 Olympics with a gold medal in the 100, 200, and 4x100 relay. The plan was, of course, to finish as a champion. Things didn't go as planned. First, Usain Bolt lost his last 100-meter race and came in third behind Justin Gatlin and Christian Coleman. Then, when it came to his final race of his career,
To the Americans, Britain, Jamaica, and the United States. Look at this from Mitchell Blake. It's Great Britain. Usain Bolt is limping down the track.
Bolt ended his career with a devastating hamstring injury at the World Championships that prevented him from even crossing the finish line, something that was foreshadowed back during the Olympic trials in Jamaica. As tragic as this was, I'm sure we can all agree that this is not what we think of when you hear the name Usain Bolt. If we think about it, at the time of this recording, it's only been a few years since he retired. So what's really stopping him from coming back to compete at least one last time?
What made you stop?
For me, I had won everything I wanted to win. I went back to the Olympics and won it 3 times. So for me, that was my major goal. That was the biggest thing that I set for myself throughout my career, to do this 3 times. And after I did that, I was like...
So there's no price that somebody was like, yo, we want you to race?
No.
But there's actually one thing that could bring him back. And he's already ran a few times since his retirement from track. For example, he tried to pursue a career as a professional football player and even scored a few goals. It didn't last long, and the theory is he never signed because they were never able to get a big enough contract worth his time. In 2019, he ran a 4.22 40-yard dash, tying the fastest 40-yard at that point. Then in 2021, he put on the spikes and ran the 800 meters for a commercial. Point is, clearly he's still healthy enough to run, although to what extent, we don't know. However, Justin Gatlin was out for several years due to a doping ban and still came back fast enough to win a world championship at age 34. Here's some major athletes that retired, then came back with varying levels of success. Jordan retired in 1999, then came back just 2 years later. At age 38, his team was far from making the playoffs, and many said he embarrassed himself, but he did have his moments. For example, he became the oldest player in NBA history to score 51 points in a single game. Then we have Michael Phelps, who first retired after the 2012 Olympics, then came back the very next year and eventually competed in the 2016 Rio Olympics, where he went on to win numerous gold medals at the age of 31. But that's nothing. George Foreman retired at 28, then came back a whole 10 years later and eventually became the oldest heavyweight champion ever after knocking out Michael Moorer, who was only 26 at the time. Historically, athletes across different sports have come out of retirement and return to dominate in their sport. The real question is, what are the chances of Usain Bolt even returning to compete? Usain Bolt has said that he would return under one condition, if his coach asks him to. Although it honestly seems very unlikely given the fact that his coach has already advised Bolt not to return.
I asked my coach, I said to my coach, Coach, I feel like we should give it a shot. And he goes, nope, I told you, when you retire, that's it.
The good news, though, is that it's not impossible to see Bolt make a return. Say what you want about Justin Gatlin, but the man won a silver Olympic medal at 34 and didn't retire until 40. But what would happen if the world's fastest man did come back to compete? If Usain Bolt came back today, he'll be 35. Let's look at the 100-meter times that some of the fastest men in the world were running at this age. Tyson Gay, tied for the second fastest man, ran a 10:17 a couple months before turning 35. Asafa Powell, fourth fastest man, ran a 10.08 at 35. And Nesta Carter, ninth fastest man, ran a 10.18, also a few months before turning 35. Based on these numbers alone, if Bolt came back today, 5 years after retirement, it would be very tough for him to run a sub 10 and make it to the Olympic finals. And that's assuming he was healthy and injury-free.
If it to run, it's horrible. I can tear my hamstring out right now.
We've already seen what happens when superstar athletes keep going long after they've peaked, achieved massive success, and have gotten super rich. Although it's fair to once again note that Gatlin did run his fastest 100-meter time of 9.74 at age 33 and won the World Championships at age 35. So it's not entirely impossible for Bolt to make a remarkable comeback. Ultimately, if Usain Bolt did come back to compete, it's likely he would still be one of the fastest men on the track. Maybe not the fastest, but chances are, if his motivation were there, he could have entered the Tokyo Olympics and took a shot at one of the medals. He might have even displayed his dominance in some of the heats, but ultimately, he would no longer be at his peak, cooking everyone like he was back in his 20s. It's fair to say he made the right choice retiring once he had nothing left to prove. Winning gold medals in 3 consecutive Olympics is historic. Setting world records across 3 sprint events is rare. Being so fast you can fumble your start, laugh in the middle, and celebrate before the finish line, yet still win is truly one of a kind. If Usain Bolt does decide to come back, win or lose, he'll forever be one of the greatest athletes the world has ever seen.
History, 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 history.